Okay, so, yeah, it's fine. Okay, so today we are going to get just the bare basics of where we start in sociology. I didn't ask y'all this on Monday when we met for the first time, but I asked my online students to tell me what they knew about sociology. I had, why they enrolled and that kind of thing. And I got all kinds of stuff. I got people who I don't know anything about it. It was on my degree plan. It fit in my schedule, for the sequence of courses. So I enrolled in it for that reason. And I've got some people who had like a degree already in psychology, but they're going back to get something else. And sociology is something that they need for that something else. I've got like a wide range. And I do remember asking y'all about... I remember asking y'all about your degree choices because you're culinary, right, and you're nursing, right, and there's people with an associate of science and business in here, and liberal arts and sciences, right. So this class is on all of those degree plans because it's going to help you be a better thinker. It's going to help you negotiate the world better. That sounds mysterious, but it's probably a golden oldie movie by now, but y'all have all seen the movie series The Matrix, right? If you haven't seen it, you can see almost all of it on YouTube in little segments. But anyway, The Matrix is like this sci-fi movie about everyday life like you and me are doing right now, but there's something bigger that controls everything, right? And it's like, wake up and see, what'd you say? Yeah, it was like you were living in a virtual reality environment or something, and there was a program that controlled everything ahead of... Yeah, so this is not about sci-fi, this class, but if you've seen that movie and you understand that concept about we're kind of drones or we're kind of pawns or something in a game and somebody else makes the rules for the game, that's kind of the stuff that we're talking about, we're learning about. We're going to get the reality of that in sociology class. And so that's why it's on all the different degree plans, and that's why it helps you with critical thinking, because most of us don't think about how something that's going on in South Africa today with people who are 18 to 25-year-olds creates the same kind of life experience or community there that it does here, or how the difference in age groups and experiences can make outlooks on life or political philosophies or religious belief systems different, right? So we are studying ourselves in this class, but we are the micro level of sociology. That's the you and me level, okay? The you and me interacting if I'm talking directly to Amy, or if you are observing me talking directly to Amy. You're watching our body language, right? You can maybe know whether is this just a teacher-student relationship, or maybe do we know each other outside of class? Can you tell that kind of thing by our interactions, right? Those are the kinds of things that you can gather, the messages that you can get from observing our interaction. So the micro level of sociology is the you and the me level. Small communication, interaction, the way we negotiate our daily lives. But are there billions of people on the planet, and millions of people just in this country who are doing the daily grind just like you and me? And they have to follow, all of us have to follow. We all kind of have puppet strings a little bit on us that kind of guide our decision making. Are you responsible 100% for the decisions that you make? You are? How many of you think you're 100% responsible for the decisions that you make? Responsible. Okay. Well, this class is about the intersection between these two things. The macro level sociology is the society level. It's the big picture. It's the matrix. Okay, I'm not telling you that the matrix is real, but it's the metaphor that I want you to use here when you're thinking about macro sociology. There's a web, there's a matrix, there's a set of rules that you and I don't have control over. And we don't really make a decision about what side of the street to drive on. We don't really make a decision about wearing clothes to class today. Thank you. We don't. Did you make a decision? Was this really your choice to be in college right now? We've talked about degree plans and how different they are. Why are you in college right now? Let me ask the question a different way. How many of you, if you could have gone straight into the career field that you wanted, straight from high school into the career field that you wanted, and you got paid, low pay, but you got paid while you were working and you were training under somebody who had 20, 30 years experience, and you were learning from them on the job and getting paid, and then after 2 years you get a certificate that you learned this and you can learn something else, and after another 2 years you're getting paid because you're working under somebody learning everything they know. You get promoted when you learn that stuff. You get promoted, you get a little bit more money, and by the time you've got 6, 8 years under you, you're getting full pay. You're in the promotion track. You've got your skills. You learned them on the job. How many of you would do that instead of go? You still had an option for college in that world I'm describing. Haven't even finished asking the question. I got people throwing their hands up. Amen. I love my job, but guess what? I have to have tons of degrees in order for you to trust this school enough to come here and listen to anything I say, right? But there would be some of you, actually. I didn't ask everybody. I didn't say, stop, let's do a show of hands. But there would be some people who would just go to college anyway. There would be. I always get 1 or 2 people who would just go to college anyway. And good for you. As a matter of fact, right now I wish I could do that myself, just because I want to go to culinary school real bad. But society's not set up that way. I can't. Now I've got I don't have a choice. I'm not in control. And you don't have the choice either. Let me tell you that my mother was a nurse, an RN. What do you have to do to be an RN now these days? And are the 4 years free? The 4 years of nursing school are not free. You have to pay. And while you're doing that, do you get to do all the nursing stuff? Do you get to actually work in a hospital all the way, or do you have to have all the credentials? You have to get the credentials before they'll let you near a patient, right? Well, way back when, my mother's long deceased now, but she was an RN way back when, and what she did was she got the equivalent of, in talking to her, this is my interpretation of what her formal education was like, just in talking to her about how she got her RN. She got essentially what seems like a CNA certificate kind of thing in a classroom environment. You can get a CNA certificate now these days in about a month. Is it 6 weeks? It's like 8 to 5 for 6 weeks, right? Okay, so that's what she got, and she went to work, and she apprenticed under a nurse. And by the time she finished the apprenticeship, she was an RN. She started working as a nurse. She was paid during that apprenticeship. Can't do that now. If you get a job as a CNA and you go work someplace, guess what? You're still going to, I'll put air quotes around it, apprentice under a nurse, and she or he is gonna ask you to do everything that he or she's doing, but you're not gonna get the same pay. And if they quit and the job is open and you've been working under that nurse for 3 or 4 years, and you go to the boss and you say, hey, I want this job, I can do everything he or she was doing. Yeah, y'all are shaking your head. No. I don't care how good you are, how wonderful. Credential, diploma. Is a diploma free? So that's what I mean by That kind of scenario is what I mean by, do you have control over all the decisions that you're going to make? You don't have to go to college. You don't have to go to college. But what kind of jobs are going to be available for you? McDonald's? Daycare labor? Guys in here, males I mean, do males have more options for better situations than females?
Yes.
Can females apply to work on a construction team on the street, or work in a roofing crew, or can females apply for that?
They can, but it's
Why
rare.
don't you people do that?
It's less likely for a female to get hired than a male.
Oh, that's illegal, honey. It's illegal for me to say, I'm not hiring you because you're female. It's illegal. But you're kind of right. He's right. I mean, he said it's less likely for a female to get hired. It's illegal for me to discriminate against you if you're a female. I mean, if both of us went to go and apply for the pipeline, I'm a gray-headed woman. Does it look like I'm going to get pregnant and have a baby and need maternity leave anytime soon? But she looks young and fertile.
I have twin boys right now. That's enough.
But
That's okay.
I don't know, or not, I'm the one applying to the job with you. They over here are the people that we're interviewing with. They don't know that personal information about you. And they can tell by looking at me, she's over the hill for that kind of thing. And so, even when it's two women applying for the job, and since a company loses productivity on young, fertile females, who, between her and me, might be discriminated against when the job is offered? Her. Is it because people are jerks?
Not necessarily.
You know what? Not some people are jerks. Sorry, but the answer here is not necessarily, because is there something controlling to a certain extent the behaviors that they're exhibiting? We got to get smart about this. We got to get smart about knowing like what could possibly be the controls. Okay, what could possibly be the controls that are affecting you and me in life? And so that is what sociology is all about, and that's why you're here. I know that, I mean, some people do go on to major in sociology. I know most of you probably won't go on to major in sociology. You've already got your career tracks picked out, but this degree, or excuse me, this class, this topic, subject area, is so vital for every little aspect of, every aspect of our social life and our social interaction. How many of you have had psychology class before? A lot, okay, good, a lot of you. So psychology, as y'all know, and y'all help me fill in and describe it, but psychology is talking about human personality and human behavior too, right? But it's more like how the brain is organized, how it functions, how it develops over time, what part of the brain controls what, urges, that kind of thing. I remember I sat in on a psychology class where it showed like the tongue and like where you taste different things. Y'all seen that, been in that class? Anyway, so it talks about personalities and disorders and stuff like that. The individual. This class, we're going to talk about individuals. And we're going to talk a little bit about psychology because, you know, can a 10-year-old understand the world the same way a 40-year-old can?
No.
And that has a lot to do with life experience, but it does have a lot to do with just growth too. Just like, you know, a 5-year-old can't reach on top of the refrigerator yet, right? We have to wait till our skeleton grows, our brain grows too. Okay? So anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about developmental psychology because we have to know what is it that a human animal, we're animals, we have to know what is it that a human animal can know and do and comprehend and react to. What is it that we can do at what point in our lives? But mainly what we're going to try to do in this class is it's so easy to focus on us at the microscale. It's really easy. We're used to that every single day. We want to zoom out and get the bigger picture and work on that critical reasoning learning outcome. That critical reasoning learning outcome is not just for this class, it's any other general education class that you're required to take on your degree plan, whether you are in a liberal arts and science transfer degree or not. If you're in culinary and sociology is on your culinary degree, you still are working toward critical reasoning. The culinary folks want you to have critical reasoning and a better understanding of the clientele you're going to serve or the colleagues you're going to work with, or et cetera, right? So in today's lecture that we're going to draw actually a concept map on the board, what we're going to work toward is the course learning outcome number 1, which we're going to try to get the foundations for how to think sociologically, how to develop your sociological imagination, and how to develop a sociological perspective. So, so let's start that now, okay? And this will be the info that you get today. I will write the bare bones of stuff on the board, and we'll talk about it, incrementally when I write the bare bones on the board. So, for instance, we're going to start with just the definition of sociology, which we might have done the other day, but we're going to do it again right now just in case y'all didn't write it down. So we're going to start with the bare bones, the definition of sociology here. Here's our center thing on our concept map. I guess I should have drawn it in the center of the board, but anyway, this will be like the center bubble on our concept map. And I'm not going to give you the full sentence description or the full sentence definition of sociology, but sociology has some key words in the definition that I'm going to point out to you, and you can find the longer definition in your textbook. The key words are that this is a study of society. This is a study of human interaction. Bubble bigger. And we study it in a systematic way. These are the 3 key words in your definition of sociology. 3 key concepts. And you can write, if I happen to ask you to define sociology for me, you write a sentence or a definition of sociology with any words you want, and as long as it has this, that it's the systematic study of these things, then you are correct. You don't have to memorize a sentence I would write or a sentence that your textbook author writes. These are the key concepts. Anytime there's an ology on the end of the word, what does it mean? You're studying something. What are we studying here? These 2 things in a systematic way. What's this word? What do you think that word is a key word here? What's systematic mean? Oh, okay. Orderly. Yes. With predictability. Okay. So the word systematic here means that the information that we study about society and that we study about human interaction, we don't just sit around and suppose information is true. We have to conduct formal research to gather facts, okay? So the systematic thing means that we gather facts about a situation. The facts might be about society itself, which is macro level, right? So the facts might be about trends across the board. We sell more pizza on Super Bowl Sunday than any other day of the year. There's a silly fact, but it's a fact that we've gotten through sociological research. If you work at Grubhub or any of the delivery places, you will not get Super Bowl Sunday off. We need you. Here's another fact about Super Bowl Sunday. that research has showed us. Crime rate, do you think crime rate goes up or down on Super Bowl Sunday? Everybody's at their house. Crime rate goes way down. Violent crime rate, anyways. Oh. Yeah, crime goes way down. People are busy. People are busy doing a socially acceptable thing, screaming at their TV and eating wings. Exactly. Everybody's over. The whole apartment complex goes over to wherever the biggest TV is, right? You might even put it on in the courtyard to watch everything. Yes, ma'am.
What process would you guys actually tie to realize it's not correlation, that's causation?
Okay, we're getting a little bit more advanced. We're getting a lot more advanced than this introductory sociology class. But it would have to be built into the data collection process to look at correlations and all this. What we do look at is, wow, crime rates go down, for instance. What could be a correlated reason why that has occurred? Okay, the date. February 3rd or whenever, around whatever Super Bowl day. Which also, if you work in like Walmart or Kroger or something, you won't get any days off leading up to Super Bowl Sunday, right? Because people are shopping for their Super Bowl party. And so you would look at a whole bunch of different areas and see whether something is related to a result. It's the way you would set up your research process. And we're going to talk about research process probably a week from today. Very slightly, because in this introductory course, our goal is to inform you to make you comfortable with the fact that when we, a sociologist says we have a macro level fact, you can essentially trust the data that you read in this textbook. You can trust if I bring something for you to read in class or to look at or evaluate, you can trust that the data or the research collection process was set up in a reliable, valid manner so that we can take these facts and interpret them in different ways. Does that make sense? Okay. So the facts might be about macro level stuff. So that would be a trend. There would be a trend across the board, meaning across entire society or entire groups of people. Human interaction, what level does that come from? Micro level. This is micro sociology. So we would study the facts we would study about macro would be trends across the board. The facts that we would study about micro would be, what do you think? What do you think we're interested in? Facts about what? It's the you and me level. What do you and me do? It's interaction that we're talking about, so we want to know about communication patterns. We want to know about communication. We want to know about using symbols. What's a symbol mean? Symbols. Good, yes, use the word represent. A symbol is anything that represents something else. The color red. The color red is a color, but if you see red, what might you think? Stop is one of the interpretation. Love? No,
Danger.
not love. Danger? Stop and danger, not love. Fire? Nobody wants to say love. Anger? Okay. I wanted to say love. But yes, okay, so see, red is a color, but the representation of that red might tell you fire, might tell you anger, might tell you stop, and whatever else we said, except love. But right, it might mean any of those things. Okay, so how do people use symbols? Do you all use your backpack and purses and shoes and eyeglasses and caps and clothing to communicate something about yourself? You don't even have to say a word to somebody, and can you walk by and your aftershave says something? What'd you say? Oh yeah, I thought you'd say if it's Axe.
Oh, no.
Like the commercial says, right? But Yeah, so we're looking at facts about communication. And what can it reveal about? What's the connection between these two things? The connection between macro and micro, that connection between macro and micro, that's the sociological perspective. That's using your sociological imagination. When you can make a connection between macro level trends across the board, macro level facts about society. For instance, here's a macro level fact about our society. It's not going to be any kind of breaking news to you. People in our society are not equal. Do you agree with that? It's a fact. Now, there's a fact that we can state. It has been proven because systematically we have studied lots of different aspects of society. So here we go back to say, okay, well, how are people unequal to each other? What are some of the ways that you think people in society, our society specifically, are unequal to each other? Money. Okay? Money is a way people are unequal to each other. What else? Sex? Meaning male or female? Are males and females unequal to each other?
Yes.
Yeah, our society is set up in a way, and so we can continue. We can say race, we can say region of the country, like north to south. We can say all kinds of different things about how facts about certain ways that people in our society are not equal to each other. But let's talk about the money, and let's talk about the sex, the male, female, what sex you are, for a second. So you, as an individual, are male or female or other. Male or female or other, who gets the best life experience, would you think, just without knowing all of the facts about the studies, whose life is easiest? Male, female, other.
Male.
Why do you say that? Is that your gut feeling? Why would you say that? Is there any observation? Is there any fact on the microscale or macroscale that you can cite? Oh, okay. So when children come, when children come, is there an assumption in our society about who should take care of those babies? What's the assumption? The mom. So is that So talk to me more about that. Are we saying that is favoring the mother, disadvantaging the mother, disadvantaging the father? Disadvantaging the mother?
It's like a burden, but I mean, two people made it, so two people should take it.
I feel like
I'm just saying that
Go ahead, keep talking.
it's gender roles.
Oh, very good sociology term. I'm already losing my marker strength here. Okay, so here is another, and we're going to come back to the gender roles. Who said gender roles? Gold star. Okay, so we're going to come back to that in just a second, and after we get this definition of this word that's related to all these things that we're talking about. This is social facts. Here's the term social facts. I look over here, I see that I left out the word sociological imagination here, so let me go back and write it. I remember saying it, but I did not write it. So, the connection between the macro level and the micro level stuff that's going on in society, being able to see that connection, being able to be aware of that connection is the sociological imagination. So when I asked y'all earlier, do you really have a choice to be in college, or whatever my question was, several of you are like, well, no. Society says, I'm paraphrasing what y'all were telling me, but society says if I'm going to have the job that I want, with the respect that I want, the promotion potential that I want, the money that I want, I have to follow that pressure. Sometimes if I ask a person, why are you in college, we will answer with a very micro level thing. I have students all the time tell me, Well, my parents told me that if I'm going to live in the house with them, I have to go to college. Are your parents jerks, or is their behavior controlled by the this that I'm about to talk to you about? Okay, so that's the sociological imagination, the connection between those two things, and on the macro scale, we have these things to talk about. Social facts. These are patterned ways. Patterned ways, right today, of thinking. One way, pattern way of thinking, a pattern way of feeling, so emotions, and a pattern way of acting that exist on the macro scale, and they have power. Those things that exist on the macro scale, they have power over us on the micro scale. I'm not writing this one. They have a big effect, is what I want to say. What word should I use in the definition? They have a significant effect. Significant influence. I'm looking for a word like significant. We'll put it in. They have a significant influence on our micro level behavior. Significant influence on micro level behavior. Make sure I'm getting all this. I'm not exactly sure that this is going to come through. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is coming through on the video very well since I've got it kind of slanted. So, y'all, if I start to erase this, somebody stop me and then take a picture of it, a flat picture of it. I'm not finished yet, so maybe we will wait to get everything on the board. But if somebody takes like a close-up flat picture of it, I can give that picture to the online students too, so they'll have it better. Okay, so back to, or wait, I'll wait for y'all to finish writing. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
So would a macro scale be the scale of importance it is society?
No, don't think of it as importance to society. Macro scale is just the big picture, big trends across the board. It's not that it's, yeah, the matrix that controls, that has all the rules that we're supposed to follow. Okay, do what? Norms and social facts, yes. Yeah, so it's not that it's more important, because you and me on the microscale, we are important as individuals. But do we have control over all the decisions that we make? It's like a maze. Maybe The Maze Runner is a movie I could use as an example, because, society has a shape, and if you want to turn right, but there's a brick wall there, or something more dangerous, that society has put there, can you turn right? There's lots of ways to be and think and feel in this world, but not every society allows all of those ways of thinking and being and feeling. Sir?
I was going to say, where would morals lie on a macro and micro scale? Would it be more of
It would lie in chapter 3, which we will talk about. But in the United States, that question is a macro scale question. Morals lie on a macro scale usually because different belief systems have different moral codes, so to speak. But those belief systems translate into the social facts and the mores, which is a word that means norm that's based on a morality. And it affects our social facts. So for instance, patterned ways of thinking, feeling, and acting. If I want to if I want to marry 3 men at once and have all 4 of us live in the same house together, What y'all think about that?
I'd
I'd have a whole bunch of extra money, honey. Or, okay, how about this one? How about this one? How about this one? I just want one husband because I do love my husband. I love him. Got one foot in the grave, but I love him. But, y'all, I have to mop the floor. I've got laundry to do. I have got my dad to take care of who lives at home with me. I've got my daughter who's having trouble with her husband taking care of their. Not my husband, me. I want a wife. I have a husband, but I want a wife. You said gender roles a minute ago. In the household,
Millennials don't do gender roles though. Everybody-
not as much. Oh, they're changing. Oh, yeah. But look at me. This is real. I did not go to the hairdresser. So when I get home, it would be so nice if my wife had supper and the groceries and the laundry. And she can have her own bedroom, and I'm not interested in her that way. And she better not be talking to my husband after dark. That's not. She's my wife. She's not my husband's wife. I am. But okay, so there's an. Am I free? Am I free to do that? Can I, if I decided to just move a woman in and just call her a wife, is that a real wife according to the law and the structure of the Macroscale facts about marriage and who inherits and who has rights and who has property? No. And she wouldn't come and do my chores for me without pay unless her name was wife. You have to pay in-house nanny. If your name's wife, honey, ain't no paycheck for that.
Right.
Just be a stay-at-home wife.
Then we don't have a working wife paycheck. I need 2 incomes in my household.
Oh, let's do gender roles. Men are supposed to provide.
I'm providing too, honey.
Okay,
And I want a woman to do my washing, and I want to just have her, like, she shares in the household. I don't want to pay payroll taxes on that woman. Okay, but anyway, so you see, so this is an example of social facts. I mean, we were talking about, this is still economics and gender roles, like you were talking about. I was going to go a different direction with it, but okay. Yeah, so social facts, patterned ways of thinking, feeling, and acting. Y'all said that women in our society are the assumed caregivers of the kids. So that is a way of thinking that our society imposes on us. What if Papa wants to be a stay-at-home Papa? Do you think is he as macho as The Rock if he wants to be stay-at-home Papa? Not to
I feel like
dudes.
it depends on who you're talking to.
True story from 2 semesters ago. So it's a young guy, not somebody in my age group. He is a veteran, so he's here on the GI Bill, and he is the stay-at-home dad and takes the kids to school, and he's the contact information on the school nurse and all this kind of stuff. And he's got a wife and everything. So last year, 3 times, he came to class and said, "It happened again. The kid got sick or something, needed to go home from school." His name, and he has, I won't use his real name, but he has an obviously dude name like Joe or something, right? So it's obviously a guy. And so 3 times, the principal, the assistant principal, the nurse, whoever called, opened up the school info. Primary contact person for Susie is Joe. They looked at Joe's name, looked at Susie and said, "What's your mama's phone number?" And they call. Are they dumb?
No.
Are they bigots? What's the word like? Are they, or Just like that hiring committee that discriminated against the young fertile person and opted for me instead, since I probably won't be out for maternity leave anytime ever. Are they just following a patterned way of thinking? They're acting on a patterned way of thinking. And what if a woman just doesn't have that close of a nurturing environment with her kids? Do you think that that personal microsociology, when she examines herself, I should feel more nurturing to my kids, but I want them to leave me alone. I should feel more nurturing. I'm supposed to because of the gender roles. Are you feeling lesser worthy? Is that the right way? Because of the social fact, you're supposed to be feeling nurturing. You're supposed to want to be. Who? I don't know, Martha Stewart or something. I don't know. Who? And if you don't want to be that, does society on a macro scale kind of have a way of making you feel not as feminine? And the guy, Joe, my student, also, so he does National Guard weekends and stuff. And, you know, when he's talking to other people on National Guard, the guys there, I don't know if bully him is the right word, but they tease him, they poke fun of him. They're like, what, you know, why are you, I can't remember what he said, but yeah, they tease him. Like, what's wrong with your wife or something? You know, that she can't be she can't stay at home or whatever. Like, gosh, she's the one working, I'm going to school. And so, are we in control of all of our own personal experiences or even our decisions? The shape of society on the macro scale makes stuff happen on the micro scale. And we experience that and communicate that and interact with each other based on that. Sociology is the systematic study of this. Some people can study just Macroscale stuff all the time. Gets kind of boring, in my opinion. Some people study human interaction all the time. A little more interesting, in my opinion. But the connection between these two things, that's where you take the red pill or the blue pill from the Matrix movie, right? So, what do y'all think? Questions? Comments? Other connections that you've seen or thought about while we've been talking about this? Sir?
There was one connection I thought about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who it was. I think it was my brother I was talking to, and we were talking about something similar to this, and he brought up, now what if it's two women or two men that have a child? And in that situation, who would be?
There's always a more feminine, right?
Well, we can still, okay, so a good point. Okay. So social facts, we have patterned ways of thinking, feeling, and acting. So when we think of family, what words in our language? Language is something that all of us, we don't all have the same accent. We don't all learn exactly the same words. I've got a friend from North Carolina, and instead of saying I'm vacuuming the house, she'll say I'm hoovering the house. You know, or my friend from Chicago says, let's go get a pop. And what would we say? Let's go get a cup. Right? So anyway, there are different words here and there, but all of it, language, you know, is a macro scale thing. Right? So in our language, can we even say that social facts affect the language that we speak and use? Not the language that we speak like as in English or Spanish or French, or not that. I mean the word choice that we have. So now we're talking about, I don't know how you worded it, but like two dudes having a baby and two gals having a baby or something. Okay, and then, so we would want to know, well, who fills, we're back to gender roles, who fills the caregiver or the wife role? Like, what word do we have? We don't have a word really. We don't have a word really that is just like gender neutral. But does that, like, can you, I mean, the word caregiver, even though y'all are millennials, when I say that word caregiver, Who or what pops in your mind immediately? A mom or a woman word, mom, female, wife, something like that. So behavior is behavior. Are there pattern ways of thinking that guide how people act on the macroscale? So when we say, oh, there's two parents and both of the parents are male, one of the thoughts that we immediately go to is, well, who's the wife and who's the husband, or who's the mom and who's the dad, or who's the breadwinner and who's the care? Is breadwinner the opposite of caregiver? I guess. I guess.
In about 20 years, this won't even matter. Here, with the social facts and whatever.
Social facts change all the time. Social facts absolutely change all the time, but in 20 years, there will be some social facts. We will just be hashing out different ones.
Yeah, they won't.
Morphing ones. Absolutely, none of this stays. I asked y'all a minute ago to take a snapshot of this flat so I can make sure that, the online students can see it. Ain't nothing about society that's flat, y'all. This is changing, having earthquakes and volcanoes and slow breezes that move leaves around. Like, everything is constantly changing. And the more that things change, the more what? You'll see connections in history from 100 years ago to now, and now to 100 years ahead. There will always be, you plant a seed and an apple tree grows. You got an apple tree. It changes over time and breaks down and lightning strikes it and all this kind of stuff, and it morphs and changes. But you got an apple tree. Looks really different 30 years later. Right, looks really different 30 years later. So every society anywhere has patterned ways of thinking, feeling, and acting that guide our microscale behaviors, guide those individuals' microscale behaviors who live there, and guide their behaviors means they don't have a full 360 view of choices to make. If the world is a 360-degree view, one society here, one society there, one society over there, don't have the entire perspective, because is it a social fact that even though my life experience on the microscale and my income on the microscale in my household, it would be greatly, greatly enhanced if I had a husband and a wife simultaneously? Will our social facts in our society allow that to happen? I mean, I would never find an individual, and I'm not looking, by the way, I mean, I'm just using this as an example. Okay, this is not an advertisement. But for instance, like, none of you have grown up thinking, oh, that's a normal situation. I'm going to look for that. That's smart. I want to be a stay-at-home wife. But having two incomes in this economic situation, that's the economic experience I want. So I better have two husbands, or I better have a wife and a husband, or I better have two people working and bringing into. That's not, like, how many kindergarten teachers are reading the kindergarten students a golden book that has that scenario in it right now? Yeah, so we don't learn that way of thinking, so we feel uneasy with this conversation, maybe. And we would never do that. And if we did, would we advertise it? Or have to keep it on the down low so we don't get discriminated against, or we don't get treated like we're deviant or criminal or whatever, right? So human behavior has a lot of psychology in it, but I don't know, how much society does it have in it? What? It's a lot of society in it. Okay, questions? I need a photograph of this, please. Thank you very much. Good. Thank you very much. Okay, I think she got it. Yeah, it was pretty flat. I mean, you're kind of angled. Was it pretty flat? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Yeah, please do that if you want to take it for you. Please do that also. So yeah, so sociology is our field. These are the three main, key concepts in the definition. It's got two components, macro, micro. When you can make the connection between macro and micro, then you have developed your sociological imagination, our first course learning outcome. So really quick, one more thing about the connection between social facts, which is a macro thing, right? So social facts, this exists on the macro scale. But there's the pattern exists on the macro scale. The micro scale is where you live out these thinking, feeling, acting, right? Where you have to negotiate your world based on these things. So yeah, so if our society has a patterned way of thinking that mom is supposed to get the kids, whether mom was married to the daddy or not, mom is supposed to get the kids, are kids cheap?
No.
It's ain't cheap. So if we do have a macro scale fact that we can look at, and it is that women, we have a sociological word for it, it's the feminization of poverty. But poverty is one way in which people are unequal to each other in this society, right? That was the first thing that we said. Money is a way. So you have wealth, you have middle class, you have poverty. So do you think there's a correlation between the fact that more women with dependent children live in poverty in this society? Is there a connection? That's a fact. Is there a connection between that fact with the society's patterned way of thinking that the child is better off with the mother? Is a child better off in poverty? When you put the child with the mother and the mother only, statistics show, facts reveal over studies over time that child's living in poverty, most likely. Is the child better with the mother? Is the child better in poverty? I don't have that. I'm asking you these questions just to get your brain thinking, not because I have the answers to this, right? Like if you ask me, just as not an academic, but just as an individual, as a child of the loss of the mother, I'm going to say, my first thing is to say, well, yeah. But why would I say that? Well, because I grew up with the social facts that said that.
As a single mother of 3 kids, no, it's not better for the kids to just be with their mother. It's not. Financially, it's not.
And that's usually how it works when people go through divorce. They usually give the mom the kid, and sometimes the mom isn't the best person for the kid to be with. Like that's just how, I don't know why, like you said, society thinks that that's the way that it should be, but it's not at all. Sometimes in certain situations.
Yeah. You gotta.
Women go through things and
But-
have nervous
Y'all,
breakdowns.
yeah. Yeah, because it's not easy. I mean, rent, milk, bologna, school supplies.
And then that's when the child
shoes.
gets involved and all the doctors and
When I say the word, I want to see what you think the social facts are about this. When I say the word deadbeat, who? Ooh, see, we don't even have the word deadbeat mom. But we don't have. But we don't. Look on Twitter. Look whatever you people do with your social media on Mother's Day and on Father's Day. Who gets bashed? You don't see moms getting bashed. Not across the board. You see moms being praised on Father's Day for being both mom and dad. You see stepdads being praised on Father's Day for stepping up and being for me what my bio dad, whatever, wasn't. Yes.
What if the role is reversed? What if instead the child went to the mother, it went to the father? Would the situation still be the same?
Oh, I wish I knew. Gosh, if I was smart enough to answer that question, like my Harvard classroom would be 700 people right now. But no, I mean, those what ifs are fun questions to ask. But my general answer to that doesn't get into any specifics, is there are societies where the roles are reversed. There are. Take my anthropology class and find out. But it would just be social facts that would be completely different, right? Like everything would be different. I mean, because one of the main reasons why single females with children live in poverty is because another macroscale fact that females are not paid the same as males in society. And it's not just, when we talk about the wage gap, there are a lot of companies, there are a ton of professions where you go in and the pay is $40,000, whether you're male or female, period. But let's go back to the pipeline conversation that we had. If I say daycare worker, who do you think of? And what if a guy wants to be a daycare worker? If you go interview daycare and there's a couple of young guys working there, are you happy about that? I don't mean you specifically, but in general, would there be some suspicion about a 19-year-old guy who works in a daycare?
Especially with changing diapers and things.
Why not a 19-year-old girl?
Gender roles.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So everything would be different. You want to say
Why
something?
don't we more effectively try to pattern social facts by the facts that we actually
Oh, we don't pattern. Well, I mean, like you and me in our lifetime, we kind of don't have power to,
make that?
yeah. Like we inherited.
Isn't that the point
The
of
social-
studying them, though?
Oh yeah, in certain cases. Oh, that's a debate. Yes, that happens all the time. Especially the social inequality thing that I used as like one of the facts that we talked about. So I asked you some kind of question like, how does social inequality? What was the question? Like, how could you be unequal in society, right? What are some of the ways? And we stopped with like 4 different ways, but we could have our list at 127 right now. Ways that we can be considered unequal and treated unequally in society, in our society. So, where do you start? Yes, you study them to know and to better understand. But a lot of people are not comfortable with just stopping with the knowing and the better understanding. Let's like fix it, but where do you start? Where do you start? Because
By identifying the problem. I don't know.
Or knowing that you have the problem.
Yeah, I agree with that.
but when you say you,
Society.
are we too? Because yes, we can start with. Yes, we start with us. But okay, so let's say in my household I do not teach gender roles, since we've been talking about gender roles. Let's say in my household I am not at Christmas buying my daughter a baby doll and a toy shopping cart. And I am not buying my son a Hot Wheels set and whatever else. I'm buying both of them, one present and one present only. I'm buying them an Easy Bake Oven.
No.
And I'm not encouraging this. Are they going to go to kindergarten and learn other things from other kids?
Yes.
So they don't just learn from me and what I do in my household. They learn from other. So yes, we can start with us. But how are we going to change society the only way we're going to keep it that way is if we live in a bubble, and that's not.
No, you start with us, and then we,
Yeah, but that's like.
What I do in my house is none of your business.
Well, we can't ensure that anyone else is going to do it. So
yeah, because we've been trying to stop like racism.
And traditional gender roles are just fine, and that's what needs to happen. You, well, that's not a conservative or liberal.
It's
You know what I mean? That's just me or the role I was playing just then. Is it a social fact that in the United States you are allowed to have your point of view about stuff?
You're allowed to a certain extent. You're allowed
That
to a
is true.
certain
You are allowed to a certain extent because the social facts confine us. The norms on the macro scale confine us. You can step out of that norm.
But
You can step out of that norm, but consequences.
people will question it because it's not normal.
Oh yeah, people will question it because it's not normal. A few years ago, I got a flyer in my mailbox. It was like a political flyer. I guess you'd call it a political flyer. It was from an animal rights group. The Arkansas legislature was considering paying for a salary for a meat inspector nationwide, countywide in the central Arkansas area, so that meat packing plants could start packaging horse meat to sell in Kroger and blah 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 blah. Ooh, are y'all responding to a social fact right now? There's a lot of meat on horses. Is there
There's a lot of cultures that actually partake in that.
It's completely edible for humans, and tons of cultures around the world eat horse on a regular basis and think we're crazy not to.
I would want facts on how it's healthy for human beings first, before I even consider that.
I mean, how close is it to the deer?
But why did y'all say? What are some of the reasons y'all say?
Because you don't.
It's a pet.
Imagine.
It's a pet. Lots of cultures eat dog meat too.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, you're gonna take AP. If you're gonna take AP, you're in the nursing program. You're gonna take AP 1 and 2. You will have a cat to dissect. You eat cat. You can eat cats. You can eat crickets. You can eat possums. I don't recommend it, but okay. Gosh, I'm causing a riot. Like y'all don't care that women live in poverty with their children, but y'all get upset about horse meat.
That's the thing. The thing with that is you can't really get upset with what people think is normal, but no one thinks horse meat is normal, so people get upset at that.
Well, that's only because right here, other people think it's normal.
But you see,
Well,
right?
that's true. Yeah.
So so we can start by changing one person at a time. So why don't y'all come over to my house on Labor Day and we will have a horse run?
You're right.
No, right, you got me there.
I mean, I don't want to discourage you from trying to. I mean, please change the world. If I was younger, I would work for you.
It depends. How much alcohol do I have?
If yes, I do not want to discourage you from changing the world, but we can't be idealistic either. Yes, we have to study this stuff, because if we don't study this stuff, how are we gonna change the world? Somebody needs to be a policymaker. Somebody needs to be manager. Somebody needs to be in positions of control. But even somebody who's in a position of tremendous control doesn't really control these. We inherited these from
And really, no
8,000.
one person controls those.
No, we inherit them. Just like we inherited the pattern that moms are caregivers and dads are breadwinners. And so when a divorce happens, or if there wasn't a marriage to begin with, who does society by default say gets the kids? Mama. But who by default says is the caregiver? Mama. And therefore, are there as many good, full-time, benefits-eligible, high-paying jobs for mama? No, because we assume you're doing what? Taking care of the kids. Even still, in your millennial generation, is it changing? Absolutely. These do not stay the same over time. Society does not stay the same over time. When I say society, as a matter of fact, why don't you do this? And we'll talk about this first thing on Monday. When we see each other, there's a definition of society in our textbook. It says something like, well, let me see what page it's on. What is it? Page 5. It can't be farther in than that. So page 5, it says, it's a social grouping that shares a geographic territory. What's a geographic territory? Like you can picture the shape of the state of Arkansas or the shape of the United States. If you can picture that because you've seen it on a map so much, that's a geographic territory. So society is the shape of a geographic territory. They have the same political authority, and they have generally the same dominant cultural expectations. That dominant cultural expectation thing corresponds to this, the social facts. The dominant cultural expectations, y'all are not going to eat horse meat, is a dominant cultural expectation. We should not have multiple spouses at the same time. Not in this society. That's a dominant cultural expectation, right? So, okay. So, is there a problem with that? Like, are we limited to only interacting with people? Like, what does this mean? Do we need to update this definition? Constantly? Well, what I mean is, I met a kid the other day who was talking about, I was fascinated because he said he wonders if he's ever going to meet his best friend. And I thought at first I was a little sad. I was like, oh, this kid feels alone in life. He's not alone at all. He said he talks to his best friend constantly, every day, every time he gets on his multiplayer video game. He's chatting constantly with his best friend who lives in Germany, and he wonders, because he lives in Germany, will he ever get to meet him? But they talk 5-6 hours a day on their interactive video game. Look at that definition of society again. Yeah, Instagram, Snapchat, Flickr, whatever, Twitter, whatever y'all do. Y'all don't do Facebook, do you? Is that an old person thing?
Not anymore. I don't do it anymore.
So yeah, I mean, so maybe we should like have a letter writing campaign to the author of this textbook. There's a change we can make. Maybe we have the power to make that change.
What?
Change the definition of society in this sociology book. If we point out stuff like that 10-year-old kid pointed out to me, I had never thought about that before. You will learn, that's another thing about sociology that you need to do. You need to talk to as many people as you can and many different walks of life as you can and get their perspectives and not be shocked when it's completely different, not get mad when they say something that you think you're offended by. Because I had never, this little kid, when I heard him say, I want to meet my best friend one day, I was like, oh, sweetheart, I love you, somebody loves you, you know. He wasn't talking about that at all. He's like, get away from me, I have a best friend. I just want to see his face, not on a computer screen.
So, like, what are you claiming that society is the now version?
Me claiming? I wish I knew. I would write my own textbook. I mean, I could maybe come up with a draft of a definition, but I would need a ton of input.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, that's my question. Like, is there... Because that definition of society has not changed for like 100 years. But does stuff change in 2 years, let alone 100? Changes daily. So, okay, good class. I think it was a good class. Did y'all enjoy it? Okay, so if you have any questions, you can text me. You can bring them in, write them out and bring them in on Monday. Let me stop.